It was kind of like that like awkward after your first like OK Cupid date where it's like, well, do we want to do this again? Kind of thing. And like, like it was just like all seemed on board, and then we started it. We had a band fund. There was $30
Where is this going?
Yeah.
Ocelot. Welcome to the show, Kat. I don't know who you are today. You're like sitting in between two worlds or something. It's confusing to me.
Oh yeah.
I feel a little weird about it. I'm not gonna lie, but like.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So you're a part of the trio. This is the Ocelot trio. No, you don't say that.
Just
do you?
Ocelot.
Ocelot.
It's just Ocelot.
Yeah.
Let's shout out to the place because this is so nice for somebody to host us. Where is this place?
This is in Sunset Park.
Yeah. Does it have a name, the studio, in case people want to record here?
This is a good question. I think it's Blue Jay. Is that the name?
Yeah, what's the name of the Wi-Fi we got?
What's our friend's name? Who's the engineer here?
Andres. Andres' recording studio.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. So, if you want to do an album or something, definitely come here and spend your money here. So I wanted to talk about like a bassless trio, which used to be weird, but I feel like it's not that weird anymore. You know what I mean? Like it used to be like, wait a minute, you don't have a bass. How are you going to play jazz? So like, obviously that's perfect for what you guys are doing. So can you just talk about the roles and like writing for role relationships when it's not like a standard sort of like, you do this and I do this and then this does the roots or whatever. You guys aren't like that at all. It's through composed music. It's contemporary. So is that sort of planned? Or are you like, let's find instrumentation that's a little bit different and it'll force us to like think outside of the box or what?
I mean, it's not to be that guy, but there actually is like a tradition of this instrumentation, like dating back to the 40s and 50s. Like if you go back to like the Lester Young trio.
Is that what you're going for? Was like the Lester Young?
No. But I don't know. I don't want to hog.
So how did you guys form this band? Like why not get a trumpet player or an electric guitar as well?
You can hug the mic.
Why did you settle on this instrumentation?
So back up 1 second. I have been fascinated with like playing without bass for a long time because for me as like obviously as a drummer I love playing with bass players, but it's a very different. It opens up a lot more sonic space for me, both sound wise and just like rhythmically and texturally. I have a lot different kind of freedoms than I would if this was a quartet with a bass player or a piano trio.
That's what I heard when I was listening.
Yeah, it's just a different vibe. When I set it up, it wasn't like there wasn't a bass player. Or it wasn't like a financial reason. It was just like, I don't know, I want to play with these three people. It
seems to be like the more I look into bands I really like, that's more of the answer. Is that like, well, we just liked each other. We liked each other's playing, and so we put it together. Is that kind of like more like personalities and musicality?
Yeah, I remember, I think Colin just sent me an email, and I think you were just like, do you want to start something that's collaborative? And I'm like, sure. It's like, do you want to make it a trio? I'm like, sure. Like, who do you want to play with? And I think Colin mentioned, like, I just met this really awesome piano player. And I remember after the show, we had like the $30 or whatever that we got from
this. I do remember.
And
yes, likewise.
And I'm like, okay, who's gonna take the 30? Like, are we just gonna split the 10? And but then I in my mind it's like, oh, this is a band, right? So I guess add it to the band fund.
The treasurer.
Yeah, it's kind of like that like awkward after your first like OkCupid date where it's like, well, do we want to do this again? Kind of thing. And like, it was just like all seemed on board, and then we started it. We had a band fund. There was $30.
Where is this going? So you said collaborative a few times. Who writes the music? Just in case somebody doesn't know.
All of us.
We all do, yeah.
How does like your personalities go into that? Any idea, or have you not thought about it, or does it not matter? Like,
I think we're all different in ways that work together. You know,
it's a little mixed nuts. I'm not gonna lie. You know what I mean? It's like a little like reach your hand in and see what you get kind of thing.
Yeah.
We're all very.
I mean that in a good way. I really love your band. I came out to see it and it was beautiful. So like, but I'm interested. Like when I was watching your show, I don't know who wrote what, and I couldn't tell.
Good.
And like maybe I had an idea about some that Kat wrote because I've played with her so much, and I'm like, that sounds a little Kat-like.
That's like one of the best compliments that we've gotten like relatively consistently is everybody being like, like it's 3 different people writing for the same group, and once we get to know you guys better as composers, like it becomes slightly more identifiable.
Right.
But the way that all 3 of you write together and specifically write for each other, like it sounds totally cohesive, which is not always the case with collaborative bands.
And we also get
Which
rid
is
of
fine.
pieces on occasion. We're like, okay, this one's not really.
Yeah.
Or just we get
We didn't
tired
even
of
talk
them.
too much
or-
about it, but
I don't know. I'm thinking of some bands like, I don't know, Knee Body or somebody where it's like, it all sort of a similar vibe. But like, I think it's a little bit more interesting, especially if I'm going to watch a set of music, for me to be like, oh, this is different than the last thing they played. And then this is different. And somehow it fits together. I just, I don't know if there's an answer to that, but like, I think it works for you guys. So.
I mean, we've never really talked about that specifically, but I mean, we've
Good. Then I ruined it.
No, but we've spent a lot of time hanging out together, playing gigs, being on the road, like, and we've talked a lot about how we think about music and how we think about albums as a complete statement, and we know each other's playing and writing very well.
we've even gone to gigs together, like band dates.
Yeah, like we've gone to like
The
the Village Vanguard as a trio
Oh,
to like
yeah.
check out.
Yeah,
different-
the
wanna do
gallery.
more of that.
Yeah, I went to the gallery once.
Yeah.
Whose
I
show
mean,
was that? I can't even remember.
at the gallery it was Chris Davis, right?
It was it Chris? Oh, was
Yeah.
it Chris?
Did you
Okay.
say band dates?
Yeah.
I think we should keep pushing this
Yeah.
metaphor as far as we can.
It's
You know,
super
like,
great.
It is kind of like that though, you know. Where
It's a
like,
family,
There's like
man.
there's kind of like testing the water stage, and then there's like, you know, does it gel, and then also like hardships and, you know, like negotiations.
you said something about touring. Do you guys have a booking agent, tour manager? That's exactly. I was
Bring it to
hoping
me.
you'd laugh. I was like hoping that you'd actually authentically, from your gut, laugh at that concept.
Yeah, you're looking at
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna ask, like, who does that?
all of us.
Yeah.
It's again, like, everything is very democratic, and we all are good at different things, and we all are weak at different things, and we're all very open about that. And like in tours we booked in the past, it's like we're trying to do like the Northeast area into Canada. It's like, well, okay, I know people in Connecticut and I know people in upstate New York. Cool. I know people in Vermont. Cool. I know people in Canada. Cool. Like, okay, let's reach out, see what venues are available that have a piano, ideally, and then we'll divvy up booking emails, and we'll all kind of collaborate on writing like our stock email to send out, whatever.
Is
like,
there a
it's,
reward system, like you know?
it's based on
Gold
gold
stars?
stars. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
There's ups and downs in people's personal lives too, you know, and like sometimes
Right.
like someone is not in a position to do all this work
It's true.
that just comes up, you know, and other times you
Just
don't
like a
have lot of
marriage.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No,
yeah.
I mean it's true. Like there's like
So I noticed watching you guys at the gallery, there was like, it seemed to be less of like a form that's however many bars that repeat and repeat and repeat. And maybe it's the kind of thing that I was fooled by it, but like it seemed to be a little more through composed. Is that accurate?
Most of the stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
90%.
So can we just talk about that versus like writing a 32 bar form or something weird like 50 and a half bar form or something, and
Yeah, I think
7/8 that goes to 15/8 and then goes to 2/5 and then goes to 11/7 or whatever.
Yeah, I think we do tend to maybe not avoid, but we're conscious of the fact that like that paradigm is very common, and
Right.
you know, not that we consciously avoid it, but I think as composers we think about ways to push, you know, the envelope. And I mean, it's not like it's a groundbreaking concept, you know,
Right.
that like you know that.
But it works for our personalities too.
Yeah.
Together, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about individuals, as a unit, we want to be free, and
Right.
I think we sound our best when we're working off an idea and just expressing ourselves together.
Yeah.
I think for me, just as a composer and for better or worse, I'm really fascinated by this idea of, I guess because I spent so much time in like music school doing like very traditional straight ahead jazz stuff, like the cyclical form, as much fun as it is to play over, and I still love doing that more
Sure.
than pretty much anything. As a composer, I'm more interested in linearity
Right.
and developing forms that aren't I don't want to say it's like not a standard form, but like why does every composition have to be this one block that just is entirely cyclical? Like
Yep.
there can be melodic fragments that have solos following after it over forms that have nothing to do with that melodic fragment.
I don't know. I have 2 albums. They're both suites. Like I don't even write. I find it easier to write with an overview sort
Yeah.
of narrative of like, okay, this is gonna be 50 minutes. you know, rather than even just like this composition is through composed, more like, okay, these 4 compositions are through composed, and then there's going to be another one. The other thing I noticed was that, and maybe this is just me projecting onto this, but it seemed to be like the music was more kind of subject over object. In other words, like there was simple ideas or sometimes complex ideas, but a lot of times I heard simple ideas that were kind of really flushed out with this overall form in mind. That as soon as I would get used to something, it would change. Instead of just like, okay, now let's put another pattern or another melody or another kind of, you know, phrase or something like that. It seemed to be that these things were used to make more of a subject that kind of went on.
There's a constant thread of some idea that's, you know, it's being extended over time.
Because I think sometimes the tendency is to think, oh, that's a simple cog. I better do something else next to show that I'm. But it's like, no. If you just sit there and play with it over and over again, like it was really pulling my ear through it. You know what I mean? To the point where I got to the end of your set and I was like, oh, and I never do this. I was like, oh, it's over. Okay, I could have used some more. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
But like usually I'm kind of like,
sets.
all right, I've got it. I've got the gist. Time to go home. And like I'm inspired. I've been fed
cool.
at this point. But like, yeah,
I
subject.
like to look at things from different angles and explore that sonically.
Man, can we talk about the scene, the Brooklyn scene?
Oh.
Oh man, well it's always changing, and you know it
Yeah.
changes so much.
I think
what
these
is the
days
scene?
it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
I agree.
But like a concept of like, oh, this scene has some underlying philosophical or musical identity, or it's like I think all of that kind of is like exploded, you know, like, and maybe because so many people have different influences and you know.
that's what
all
I feel
that,
like. It's
yeah.
going up in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah, it's hard to even define what
Yeah.
our scene is,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I think the cool thing about the like the Brooklyn scene is like on top of that there's like, you know, maybe the people in like the noise like punk rock scene, or like maybe, you know, people who are much older, you know, that have been doing like creative improvised music for like, you know, many decades, like someone like Stephen Gauchi or something like that, you know, that starts to intersect with the scene. So there's, you know, intersection of like different genres and like backgrounds, and but also like age too, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
right on. We all went to music school.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something that you find to be invaluable that you took away from it? And what's something that you would rather maybe have been talked to about in music school that you didn't get, that you thought was left out by it? Or either or you could just say whatever you want. You know, there's no...
Yeah, thoughts. I have
What do you
some
think you
thoughts,
got out
yeah.
of it, and what do you think was missing is kind of the question.
I think that if you, the biggest thing for me was the community aspect, honestly. You
Yeah.
know, like going to music school and like having people who have kind of like made the commitment to like study whatever tradition or musical style or whatever, and you see them every day and you
Yeah.
play music with them, and then you develop a relationship with them, and through those connections you meet more people. Like even when you move to a new town, like for me, I'm from Michigan, you know, and when I moved here I didn't know anybody, but I knew like 5 or 6 people from Michigan, and through that, you know, I met more musicians. And actually I met Colin through my friend Alex Levine,
Yep.
you know, who I
And then
went
we
to
got
school.
fired from a gig. Our first gig we played together, we
Right,
got fired
that's
by
another
the bar.
story in itself.
Congratulations.
Not fired from the band,
Yeah.
fired by the bar.
Yeah.
Told
Oh,
to stop
wow.
playing in the
Oh,
middle.
Oh,
of
they
the
made
set.
you stop.
Wow.
Good times.
I think that should be at the top of your resume, actually.
That was, what was
There
that?
you
That was
go.
like 2014, 2015?
2015, probably
Yeah, that was
2016,
a good
something like
night.
that. Yeah. But yeah, anyways,
Sorry,
you
I
know,
missed
like I think that's probably the biggest thing about
Because it's
going
an
to music school.
environment, and like on a day where you're maybe not inspired, it might be like, well, I'm in it though. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
becomes sort of fused into your bones, sort of thing.
Yeah,
That's how I
exactly.
usually think
Yeah.
about it.
So that's like the invaluable part. I guess the thing that I wish I knew. I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to talk about this on like a podcast, you know, but like I guess just the reality of being a musician,
Yeah.
you know, they basically don't really talk about it in music school. And And honestly, like, nothing against the people that I studied with and all the teachers, but, you know, it's like there's a cyclical thing happening. Like, you're at an institution learning from people who stayed at institutions, you know? So, like, there's not a lot of perspective of, like, what's going on, what happens if you go to New York City, you know, from professors who've been, like, tenure professors at wherever you go telling you, oh, this is what you should do. Like, there's going to be some degree of disconnect. And
so I actually went to where did you go to? Michigan?
University of Michigan.
Okay. Shout out to Ann Arbor, but beautiful place. But I went to a big state school like that too, and I asked, like, the last couple years I was in it, I was asking everybody, like the professors, like, hey, what the fuck's up with a career? And they were like, yeah, look over there. And they'd run away. And so I had this friend who was an older guy. He was a sociology of music professor. So he was in the music school, but not really. He was in the sociology school. And we became really good friends. I'd go over to his house to have dinner and all this. And I told him, I said, I'm so frustrated because I've been asking these people for 2 years. I haven't gotten one decent answer. And he said, let me help you. I have to go to the meetings at the beginning of the year of this giant music school, and they discourage talking about it with the students because the more you talk about a career, the more kids change their major. So every year that I've been for like 15 years, they're like, hey, just a reminder, if a kid brings up like career, business, what to do as a musician when they get out of school, you know, maybe give a little and like try to not think about it too much. And I think that's so, I have the same two answers as you, by the way. It's community, and then like, I wish we had been able to talk about some of the realities
it's a business, like, unfortunately.
Why are you dedicated to doing this? Like, look, you're not writing music for like Marvel movies or top 40 hits. You know, we've joked about the, you know, how horrid of a life we live, you know, it's not, it's great. But like, why spend thousands of hours dedicated to creative music? Is it just because it feels good? You love it? Is that it? It's just what I like to do? Or do you think it's important? Or, you know, no wrong answer.
All of the above? Because we were just talking about community. We're continuing a legacy, and we're doing it for our musical family that we've made. And you know, there's a love there. And when that's shared with other people, they can feel that and sense that. And that's where the art is, the artistry. And
I agree.
Just keep that going.
Yeah.
All right.
Want to say something about that, or?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's a good question. I you know, it's kind of cliche, but like I kind of feel like I do this because I have to.
Yeah.
Like I mean, I've worked a lot of absolutely fucking insane day jobs. And it's only been, so how old am I now? I'm 34. It's only been in like the last like 4 years that I was able to support myself doing only music, and you know, it's hard, but like, I don't think I'd be happy doing anything else.
Right.
It's like the most important thing in my life. It trumps everything. Like,
but if you're working day jobs and you're like, I want to get out of this and just be a musician, I don't know. It doesn't seem like this kind of music would be the first step away from it. You know what I mean? Like, well, why not?
I grew up playing straight ahead jazz. Like, I went to North Texas, dude. Like, I played big band
I'm
music.
with you.
Like,
I'm right with you.
And when I first moved to New York, like, I was doing the straight ahead jazz thing. I had
so why are you not hustling wedding gigs out in Long Island all the time?
I've done it.
Yeah,
I've done
me
it.
too.
I've played musicals. I've played cover band gigs. Played in like pit orchestras. Like, you name a musical situation, because I grew up in Dallas.
Yeah, man.
And I lived there.
I think we're the same person, maybe.
Yeah, like the cool thing, what really fucked me up when I moved to New York was, in Dallas you could be a jack of all trades.
Yeah,
like,
we talked about this the last one of these we did, that it was like, to be in New York, how do you be in the scene for different things? It's so hard. It's almost impossible.
Well,
so like, why did you gravitate to this niche? Just because you love it?
I've just always, I mean, I don't believe in a musical hierarchy.
Right.
And like, I mean, this music has like, it saved my life.
Yeah.
Like countless, not countless,
awesome.
3 times. And you know, I find just as much value in like what Evan Parker is doing as I find in like Nat King Cole, that I find in like Minor Threat or Soundgarden.
Sure.
Or, I mean, it's like, or Alexander Scriabin or Morton Fell, like any of these people, like that's what I didn't like about jazz school, is that there was very much this hierarchy, and it was like you're checking out the right people or you're checking out the wrong people.
Right.
Now, luckily, my teacher at North Texas did not subscribe to that bullshit at all.
Yeah.
But
because that's the typical, for anybody who doesn't know, that's the typical school of like the lab band. They call them labs, right?
Yeah.
Which I was always like, ugh, don't call a band a lab. That's so disgusting.
Or even combo. Combos are weird.
Yeah, it's a strange feeling when I hear the word combo.
Yeah.
We're coming to see your jazz combo, and I'm like, ugh, shut up. Don't say that.
This kind of music, whatever label we want to put on it, has big emphasis on, improvisation and just, like putting out things that you're feeling at the moment, in the moment, and we accept it for what it is and we navigate through it. And I think philosophically, I think there's something that's really powerful in engaging in that activity and doing that together with other people and being part of a community that, the kind of values that kind of like personal agency, and like combining those different urges and, viewpoints into like one collective presentation or whatever, and doing that in the context of like people and like how it's connected to a deep, rich history of, this lineage, all that combined just like is something that's just, I just love it,
Yeah.
And regardless of how much money it generates or doesn't generate, it's like, it doesn't really change that. That's just a capitalism thing, it's
Right.
like, so like,
That'll all be over soon. So.
right. Yeah. So,
I played a concert, or I'm sorry, I didn't play it. My students played a concert at a school that I teach near where you live. And it was the day after the Uvalde shooting, the worst school shooting. And we were like, should we do this or not? Should we put these kids on stage and play a concert? It just seems almost inappropriate. And then it's like, well, yeah, because it's important. And I don't care if they're playing Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then we're standing there watching them play. And my friend who runs the program, who's a drummer, he looked at me and he said, you know what I see? I just see like 35 future non-school shooters right here on stage. And it's just like, to me, it kind of put into focus how healthy this is that people are creating music. Maybe those kids aren't, super creative, improvisational through composers, whatever, but still, you know what I mean? This is an extension of that. And like, I think this shines the light on that. And for me, that shined the light on what we do too. So it just kind of like snapped it all into focus. Was like, I want to go play a gig now.
I would legit be dead if it was not for this music.
Yeah.
And like, I think about that often.
Well, again, thank your sister for us.
Yeah.